We are now into section 3, the numerical value type questions, and the first question in that part is, here it says a long cylindrical cavity touching the surface of the wire of radius r by 2 is present in a current carrying cylindrical long wire of radius r. A current I flows through the wire and distribution of current is uniform. The magnetic field on the axis of the cavity is given by this expression, and we have to find the value of eta. So, interesting question. What are the different concepts involved? Well, we can use the concepts like a magnetic field produced by a long current carrying conductor where current is uniformly distributed. We can use that, but we have to also use a principle of superposition. So, what I have in mind is this. Say this is the cross section of the wire and there is a cavity also in this. The radius of the wire itself is r, but there is a cavity of radius r by 2 like this. Okay? And we are supposed to find the magnetic field on the axis of the cavity, that means at point P. So, there is current here. Okay? Now, how to apply the principle of superposition? Let us assume that this is called part 1 and we assume that there is also current flowing through the cavity. We just assume, okay, so that we can apply the basic laws like Ampere's circuitous law to find the field at point P. So, this is part 1 and there is another part 2. Here also we assume that now the current density is same, which is there in part 1. What is that current density? That current density J is equal to current I, which is flowing, but it is flowing effectively in area of cross section, which is equal to pi r square minus pi r square by 4. So, I divided by pi r square minus pi r square by 4, and that becomes 1 minus 1 by 4 is 3 by 4. So, that means it is 4 I divided by 3 pi r square. Now, as I said, we assume that this current density is also there in this part. And now at point P, we can find field by taking an Amperian loop, which is circular and whose center is at the center of the entire cylinder of radius r. All right. So, the net magnetic field at point P is given by principle of superposition. Magnetic field at point P is equal to magnetic field due to part 1 plus magnetic field due to part 2 also. So, part 2 is the cavity, imagining a cavity also having the same current density in the same direction. Now, interestingly, B2 part is 0 because for a cylindrical long current carrying conductor where the current is uniformly distributed over its cross section, the magnetic field on the axis is 0. So, this part is 0 and we are interested in B1. So, B1 is equal to BP. So, that makes our task very easy. So, what is BP? Well, BP can be found quite easily applying Ampere's circuitous law. So, the total current enclosed in the Amperian loop, which is a circular loop of radius r by 2, we can find that the area becomes pi r square by 4 and multiplied by the current density, that is the current enclosed. Okay. So, BP becomes then mu naught times current enclosed within that Amperian loop, which is pi r square by 4 into current density, and the current density is 4 I divided by 3 pi r square, and then we have to divide it by 2 pi r by 2. That means we have to divide it by pi r. So, this is the expression and that is also equal to magnetic field due to part 1 alone, as I explained to you. So, let us simplify this, and what this comes out as, we can cancel this pi r square, this 4, and we find that this magnetic field is coming out as mu naught times I divided by 3 pi r. So, this is the magnetic field in which we are interested. Let us compare our expression with the expression given in the question. We are getting mu naught I divided by 3 pi r, and this is eta times mu naught I by pi r, which means the value of eta is 1 by 3, and well, we have to put it in decimals. So, eta is coming out as 1 by 3, and that means we can put it as 0.33. All right. So, this is the solution to the question. Let me just slide it up, and we shall now go to the next question, question number 14. And this one is about magnetism, moving charges and magnetism. A proton and an alpha particle are accelerated through same potential difference, and then they entered into a uniform magnetic field which exists only in the region of width d as shown. If the angle of deviation suffered by the proton is 45 degree, then find the angle of deviation of the alpha particle in degrees. So, very interesting, what is the deviation produced? And both the particles are accelerated by the same potential difference, isn't it? Well, let us check it and verify. Yeah, they are both accelerated to the same potential difference. So, that will give us an idea about their kinetic energies, all right. But what is the concept here? The concept is this: as the particle is going, entering the magnetic field, in the magnetic field, because its velocity is perpendicular to that uniform magnetic field, it will take a arc of a circle as a path. And suppose the radius is r, the center of curvature will be somewhere here. Okay, let us say that this is the center of curvature. So, the particle can take a path like this, and as it exits, if it exits, we can find the angle of deviation. Let us just modify the position of point C little bit, or so that so instead of keeping C here, let us put C somewhere here, the center of curvature, and this angle is effectively the angle of deviation. How? Initial velocity was directed like this, final velocity is directed like this, the speed is not going to change, the direction only is changing. So, we are basically interested in finding this angle, and we can see that this angle theta is in fact same as this angle theta. We can make sure this is theta, and this too is theta. So, once that is clear, we can see that sin theta, expression for sin theta is equal to d divided by the radius of curvature of the path taken by the particle. So, that will be a basic equation which we can use to find the deviation suffered by the other particle, the alpha particle. All right, d is same for both the particles, r will be different in general. So, what is the expression for r? R is given as mv divided by qb. So, now here what is mv? The magnitude of momentum, that is equal to 2 times mass of the particle into its kinetic energy. Kinetic energy becomes let us say v into q, all right, where v is the accelerating potential difference, q is the charge of the particle. So, that is in fact we have to put a square root here. So, this is for mv, here this v is for speed and this v is for the potential difference through which the particle is accelerated, and then we have to divide it by q into b. So, this further simplifies as equal to, in this particular case, b is going to be same for both the particles, masses are different, v is same, and charge also is different on the two particles. So, that means we can simplify it as, well, there will be q square root of q in the denominator, 1 by b we can keep outside, and then within this square root sign we have 2m V divided by Q. This is the expression. So, let us now find the expression for the radius of proton and also the expression for radius of the alpha particle, the radius of the circular path of the alpha particle. We can see that sin theta, or rather sin 45 degree, which is the 45 degree is the deviation produced for the proton, divided by a sin theta, where theta is the deviation produced in the path of the proton, that is equal to, well, it becomes r of alpha divided by r of the proton, right? Because sin theta is inversely proportional to the radius, and this will be equal to, from this expression we can just put the values of mass and charge. So, this is equal to square root of mass of alpha particle, which is 4 times mass of proton, and of course, there is a factor of 2 also. So, let us put that 2 also. We will get cancelled. The charge is for the alpha particle is 2 times of E, and then now in the denominator we put expressions for proton, which is equal to mass is mass of P. So, this is 2 times mass of proton, and then in the numerator the charge of the proton, which is E. All right. So, expression on the right hand side, well, it turns out it is equal to root 2. All right. So, what is the value of sin theta? Sin theta is equal to sin 45 degree divided by root 2, which makes it 1 by 2, and that makes theta as 30 degree. So, the angle of deviation produced in the alpha particle is going to be 30 degree, and that means we can take the value. If we are putting 2 places after decimal also, the answer becomes 30.00, and this numerical is done. I should slide it, and let us now go to the next set of questions of this paper. Let us discuss question 15 now, and we can see that there is a circuit having a cell, an inductor and 2 resistors. The question says the circuit shown in the figure is in steady state. Find the amount of heat generated in resistor of resistance R1, and the value is given as 1 ohm in joules after the switch S is opened. So, what happens after this switch is opened? What is the amount of heat produced in R1? Well, the question will involve the concept of energy stored in inductor, and that energy, whatever is being stored in the inductor, after the switch S is opened, that will dissipate as heat, but not in R1 alone, but also in R2. So, once you open the switch, this cell goes out of the circuit, and the circuit in which that the current is going to flow is like this. There is an inductor, this is R1 and this is R2. So, if originally the current was flowing like this, the current will keep flowing, but it will obviously not be constant in magnitude, it will go on decreasing. It will go on decreasing, in fact, exponentially. So, this is R2 and its value is 2 ohm, R1 is 1 ohm. So, what is the initial current when the circuit is in steady state, the switch S is still connected? We can see that the current here is going to be initial current, which we will call I naught. Okay? I naught is the current at the moment switch S is opened. That is a steady state current in the inductor, and that is going to be equal to 3 volt divided by 1 ohm, and that is 3 ampere. That is the important current, and this I naught in fact is going to now, once the switch has been opened, it is going to decrease exponentially. But what is important for us is that the magnetic energy stored in the inductor, okay, U is equal to half L I naught square. Let us calculate its value. The value of L is 4 Henry, I naught is 3 ampere. So, this is 1 by 2 into 4 into 3 square, and that means it is 18 joule, right? That is the amount of energy stored in the inductor. Let us check the values once again, because yeah, so it is 4 Henry. So, this is the energy stored, and once switch S is opened, the cell goes out of the circuit. This is the total amount of heat produced, but this heat will be produced in R1 as well as R2. Now, we can see that the current in R1 and R2 are going to be same, equal. So, that means heat produced will be in the ratio of resistances. So, if the total amount of let us say if the heat produced in R1 is H, 2H amount of heat is going to be produced or dissipated in R2. So, the total heat dissipated will become 3H, all right, where H is the value we are interested in. So, that means we can say 3 times H is equal to 18 joule, and so the heat produced in R1 alone, which is H, is going to be 6 joule. So, that is the answer, and if we use 2 places after decimal, that becomes 6.00 joule. So, the question is done. Amount of heat generated in resistor of resistance R1 we have already found. Time to go to the next question now.